My name is Alex Caserta. I recently retired from a 34-year career as a visual arts instructor in order to embark on a new adventure. As a photographer, my goal is to reveal historical information while shedding new light on the people and places that sustain our rich cultural heritage. This is an opportunity for us to discover the farms, food, and flavors of our beautiful state. This is a time for us to explore the diverse wonders in our own backyard.
This is Harvesting Rhode Island.
I'm here at Tilted Barn Brewery with Matt Richardson down in Exeter, Rhode Island. And we're standing in the barn, which is over 100 years old. How long you been doing this, Matt?
We opened in November 2014.
Yeah, and how many acres do we have here?
We have 30 here, which is great.
30 acres. Now, you grow hops in Rhode Island.
We do, that's right.
Are you the only hop grower? Or?
We were for a little while, but actually last year or 2 years ago, there's a guy up in Johnston that is growing hops now also, so 2 hop farms in Rhode Island.
2 hop farms. And do you use all of the hops that you grow?
We do now. We used to sell them to other people, home brewers and some local breweries, but once we opened Tilted Barn here, we keep everything for ourselves now.
You're using them for consumption.
Yeah.
Right. Now down the road here, you have more land. Mm-hmm. How much land down there? What do you have?
So at my wife's parents' farm, we have about another acre of hops down there.
Okay. What time of the year do the hops come out?
They emerge in April, and then they grow throughout the year. By about 4th of July, they'll get as high as 20 feet tall. They're a vine that goes straight up. And then you harvest around Labor Day, give or take, depending on the varieties.
And is it a seed that you put in the ground?
It's a root cutting, actually.
Okay.
So it's a root cutting. It's a rhizome, it's called, that you put in. And so that's how you can multiply too, because those rhizomes will spread really far, and you don't want them to get next to or mingle with another variety next door. So you have to root trim them, and then those root cuttings that you take, you can either regrow yourself or you can sell them to someone else to grow. And
it takes 3 years for a hop vine to mature, where you can actually get a good harvest?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, it takes 3 years for it to really establish. The 4th year you get the best harvest, then you're really starting to get a good one, but you don't really get much until 3 years at least.
How many hops do you get on a vine?
You get, at sort of the peak production is you'll get about 2 pounds per plant. So per acre you can get about 1,000 plants per acre, so you get roughly 2,000 pounds per acre.
Oh. Now, are you using one particular hop that you're growing?
No, we use a lot of different hops. So we grow about 7 varieties here. We also do buy in some varieties that we don't grow or that we can't grow. I like a lot of Australia and New Zealand hops and things like that, so we buy some from there.
How are they different from what we can grow here?
It's a totally different profile. It's really strange. You could take a hop we're growing here on our farm and take it to Australia, and you'll get a completely different profile from it. They get a lot of tropical fruit kind of flavors and passion fruit, mangoes, that kind of thing from the hops. Yeah, it's really neat.
Does a lot have to do with what's in the earth?
Yeah, the climate, the soil, everything. It's just like grapes. You get different, the terroir from where the grapes are grown, you get that with hops also.
Same with the hops.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you get started with this?
I got started probably about 10 years ago. My wife bought me a homebrew kit, and you know, just kind of dabbled a little bit here and there. My dad actually used to take me to this store in Warwick where you could brew your own beer there too, so just little things like that. But it wasn't until about 2007 that I got more into it, and we started planting hops here on the land, and a few hops turned into more hops, and next thing we knew we had, you know, miniature hop farms. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. How many varieties of beer do you produce?
We have done, I think we're up to about 29 different beers we've done so far.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. What do you do in Southern with pine needles?
Yeah, so we do, we use a lot, besides the hops, we use a lot of other things we grow. So we've done a spruce tip beer where we take the new growth on the Christmas trees. That's been grown on this farm since the 80s. And so
since the 80s?
Yeah, so we keep it going. It's nice. So people come, walk around, point to say, I want that tree, we cut it down for you, tie it up.
And then you'll cut them down for the people, and they'll enjoy a little Christmas cheer that you serve here.
That's right. We've done a maple beer using the maple sap from our maple trees, a pumpkin beer with pumpkins that we grow.
I bet the pumpkin beer is good.
Yeah, it is tasty, yeah.
You know, what do you think about the new movement that's going on in Rhode Island with craft beers?
Yeah, it's blown up the past 3 or 4 years, and it's great. It's a really tight-knit community. There's a Rhode Island Brewers Guild, so every brewery in the state is part of the Brewers Guild. We meet every few months, and so it's great. We feed off each other. But yeah, up until a few years ago, there was really only one brewery in the state of Newport Storm and some brew pubs. But the past few years, we're up to, I think, 14 total now, 13 or 14 breweries. So
yeah. Now, you used to sell to Newport Storm.
Yeah.
And you got to know the people there. And did they give you any advice when you opened up here?
Yeah, they've been great from day one, really. They were the first people that we sold our hops to commercially. Derek, one of the brewer and the owner over there, he comes out. He actually helps us pick the hops when we're selling to him. He would bring a keg of beer out and help pick and everything. So they've been a big help. So like I said, it's just kind of it's a great community.
It's great that you've been able to use local food and use it in a different way, which is why I'm here today, because you know, you don't normally think of somebody brewing beer as always using local ingredients.
Right. No, it is, and there's a lot of potential in Rhode Island, not just for a brewery like us, but any of the breweries to source local ingredients, and they are doing that.
It's very nice. Now, do you have any advice for younger people who want to go into this type of adventure?
Yes, it's a lot of work. It's rewarding, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Yeah, the farming aspect is a ton of work. The brewing aspect is a ton of work. So it's rewarding, but prepared to have long days and long weeks for sure.
So if a young person wanted to be a hop farmer, there are enough companies in Rhode Island brewing beer where they could probably sustain themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Even on, so that other hop farmer, Johnston, he's about 7 acres, and he'll have no problem getting rid of all those. If not Rhode Island, then regionally, southern New England, for sure.
Even in terms of pumpkins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot. You could have a whole farm growing crops strictly dedicated to brewing beer.
What do you need to make beer? What's the process?
There's 4 ingredients, really, 4 basic ingredients, which are water, hops, barley, and yeast.
Okay.
And so really water is about 90% of the beer itself when you think about it. And so that's, I think, what's pretty unique about our beers is we're in private well water here. It's great water, so it's a great starting point for us.
And then what's the process?
Basically, you steep the grains for roughly an hour or so at very specific temperatures.
Okay.
And then you run off that liquid off those grains into the kettle to boil, and that's where you add the hops to during the boil. And you boil everything for about an hour again. You can add hops at different times to get different flavors. And from that point, it goes into a fermenter where you add the yeast, and the yeast is what makes that into beer. So the yeast is what creates alcohol from that.
Oh, okay, and then you bottle it.
Yep, so bottle it or keg it or can it.
You've won a couple of competitions?
We have, yeah.
Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, so I was never one for competitions, even as a home brewer. I never entered any beers into it, and once you started here, I wasn't really even thinking about it. But there's a guy, Larry Brown, who writes for a local beer newspaper, and when the Great International Beer Fest was in Providence last year, he said, "Matt, you should submit some beers." I said, I don't know, and then he literally said, "I'll come and pick them up and bring them there for you." So okay, so we submitted 3 beers. We got 2 medals for them, which is great. We got a gold for our double IPA, and we got a bronze for our stout, which is pretty nice because I always thought we make great beers, and it's nice to see someone else agree.
Sure is. So. Yeah, when you're competing against a lot of other people.
Yeah, it was exciting. I think there were 700 entries that day. So
you have your undergraduate degree as well as your master's degree, and what did you get that in?
Both of those environmental science. So, and I wish I did chemistry or something like that, actually, because there's a lot of science to beer, which I've sort of self-taught and all that. I read a lot about it, learn the hard way. But there's a lot of science behind the beer, and that's really where you can excel at it, is understanding that and grasping those concepts. So any kind of chemist or anything like that, they generally make great brewers.
How did you get the name Tilted Barn?
So we knew we wanted to have some sort of barn aspect of the name, since we brew in a barn.
Yep.
And this barn, while I always tell people it's certainly structurally sound, it's certainly not straight. When I learned that the hard way with all the renovations we've done, it's tilted for sure, so it's a good name for it.
Well, it's got a right to be tilted if it's over 150 years old.
That's right. And some people will always say, well, doesn't look that tilted. I said, well, have a couple of beers and then
Yeah.
it'll look more tilted.
So Matt, let's see if we can taste some of the product.
Sure. Normally we have more on tap, but it was a busy weekend, unfortunately.
Yes, so what do we have here? It's a nice light beer in color.
Yeah, so this is it's called Early Riser IPA. Sort of a nod to the early mornings on the farm around here. We do a lot of our beers. We're heavy on the dry hop, it's called. So you add hops after the boil while the beer's fermenting, and you just get a lot of that flavor and aroma. You don't get a lot of the bitterness from it.
What am I smelling here?
So the hops that we use some of those Australian, New Zealand ones that we talked about.
Very sweet smelling.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these have kind of tropical fruit, almost like some white grape flavors to them.
It's very different. It almost tastes a little like grapefruit.
Yeah, that's from the hops. I like a lot of the tropical, juicy kind of hops that you get from. Most people, they think of that pungent pine bitterness.
Okay.
I stay away from those on purpose.
So this is Early Riser, IPA. What does IPA stand for?
IPA is for India Pale Ale. Basically what that style is a little bit more unbalanced on purpose towards the bitter side. So it's bitter than, say, your pale ale or blonde ale or something like that. The name actually came from back when they had the long trading routes. The longest trading route from England was to India. And so hops actually are also a preservative in addition to what they add to beer in terms of flavor. They knew that they were preservative, so they'd add extra hops for the route to India. So that's why it became India Pale Ale. The name still sticks today.
Okay. And what other types of brands do you brew?
So we do a lot of hoppy beers, obviously being a hop farm, but IPAs, we have a lot of pale ales. Our favorite right now actually is American Blonde, which is nice and light, refreshing for the summertime, about 5% alcohol, which is nice. We do stouts, we do a porter, the pumpkin beer, some fruit beers. We do a little bit of everything.
Excellent. Well, this is very good.
Thank you.
And like I said, it's different. It's very light. And to me, it still tastes, I know it's hops that I'm tasting, but it tastes almost like grapefruit.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the flavors you can get from hops.
Cheers. Well, thanks very much, Matt. It was a pleasure coming up here today.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, I'm here with Paul Nunes, and Paul, you're one of the owners of the vineyards here?
I am.
And I know your brother handles the stuff on the inside, and you're out here. We're in the Cabernet Franc vines right now.
Yes.
I noticed that the grapes are all growing mostly at one height. And so you do a lot of pruning to allow the sun to get at the berries?
Yeah, that's right. So the way we train the vines, we prune about 80% of what you see here gets pruned off each year. And what we do is we'll take it down to 3 or 4 canes that grew this year, and we'll lay them down on the bottom wires here, and everything will grow up from those canes.
Okay.
So all the new growth originates at this, what we call the fruiting wire. These vines want to grow straight up naturally. So as each shoot grows, we kind of sandwich them with more wires to keep them vertical. What that does is it maximizes the sunlight on both sides of the canopy. Our rows are facing north-south, so the sun obviously rises in the east, so that you get equal amounts of exposure on both sides of the canopy.
So you have a mixture of red and green here.
Yeah, we get some clusters that will lag behind others.
Yeah, so these would, if you left them on long enough, they would eventually turn red.
They would eventually, unless a frost got them first.
So would these grapes taste sweet at this point if you picked a red grape off a vine?
They taste a little bit sweet, but not like a grapes you'd there's a reason they're not eating grapes. They're, they do have seeds. I think they taste great because it's my passion. I like making good wine, and I need a good tasting grape. But they're starting to get their sweetness. These are probably about,
Let's see the juice.
yeah,
You pulled it off.
that's probably about 12 to 13 bricks, which is about 13% sugar. So.
Yeah. I'm here with John Nunes, the owner of Newport Vineyards, which is quite an expansive operation that you have here, John. It's pretty impressive. You have a new addition that you've put together here that is absolutely magnificent. I've never seen anything like this in the state of Rhode Island. When did this come to completion?
This is a vision that we've had for probably 10 years. As the business has grown, we've realized that we needed more space, and we had so much opportunity to teach people what we do and how we operate. That's really the whole gist of the reasoning behind the expansion here. We want to show customers how we make the wine, how we grow the wine, give them a place to come relax. It's really a nice opportunity. It's a nice location to show, especially tourists from out of town, what we do, and that's the whole gist of it.
You have how many acres?
Total acreage is about 80, with 52 in grapes that are
52
used for
planted.
wine.
Yeah. First planting was back in 1997?
We started, yes, in 95 is when we essentially started. We had some grapes down on Indian Avenue, but the real meat of our vineyard operation was 98 with the acquisition of the Perry Farm, which you see right on Route 138, Middletown. And then in 2002, we planted my great-grandfather's farm on Wyatt Road, which is actually bigger than Perry Farm, and that has another 30 acres over there. So it's a substantial farming operation with 7 tractors and a year-round crew working, taking care of all these grapes.
John, how far back does this land go in terms of history?
Middletown has always been known as the kind of the farming community right in the middle of Aquinic Island.
Yep.
Newport was the city, and then Middletown out here was going back to the early settlers. So our land, my great-grandfather bought in 1917 over on Nunes Farm. And then, but the Perry family owned this most recently as a potato farm, and they go back the same around the turn of the century. But even before that, it's been in farming.
It's been in farming for a long time.
Long history here.
This new facility that you have over here, you have a tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
You can see through the glass where you do your bottling.
Right.
And you have a shop where you sell products and you sell the wine.
Right.
You have a cafe where people can get lunch.
Yes.
And you have a little bit of an upscale restaurant where people can go for dinner.
You've hit just about everything,
Yeah.
except mention the great owners.
Well, thanks very much for having us here today. I appreciate it. Newport Vineyards with Andy Texera. And Andy, you're the executive chef of the facilities here.
Yep.
So you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we try to source, first off, we try to source as local as possible. And then, but farm to table can stretch out, all over the country, supporting, small farms on the way they do things.
Now, in terms of the luncheon menu, can you give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you try to do that's different for lunch here?
Well, what we're doing is we're making everything from scratch. So, like our turkey breast, like I was telling you, anyone can just buy a boar's head turkey, which is great. But we get a raw turkey breast, we brine it ourselves, we roast it, and then slice it. So we get to add our flavor, and you can really taste the difference.
And I noticed you do a lot with cheese here.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheese and wine.
and
You know,
wine.
we are a winery, and
Yes.
what better to go with it than some cheese? And we have 5 categories of cheese, and we try to have a couple different ones. Source them, stretch out from all over the world, just cheeses that are done right, and have a lot of fun with, and educate the consumer on some different stuff.
Andy, Bricks is the upscale rustic type of restaurant that you have here for dinner. That's open from 5 to 9. What's happening with the menu there?
Well, what we're doing there is I'm trying to have a lot of fun with the food, trying to give people, the atmosphere of being able to come in and share some plates. We have a lot more small plates. We do have some large plates on the menu, but we have a lot more small plates. I want people to have fun, be able to try a lot of different things. We're in New England. We have a lot of great flavors. I want to, utilize what we have available for the season. So, you come in here, you have a tasting, a wine tasting. Why not have a food tasting and get a bunch of different little plates that you can kind of build for yourself and do your own little tasting menu?
Thanks for being on the
pleasure.
show with us.
Thank you.
I
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm with George Chelf inside the room where they actually produce the wine. George is the head winemaker here. George, how many years have you been here?
1988 was my first harvest, so almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years. And you learned a few things, I guess.
Every year is different, so that's good and bad.
But a lot of fun, I bet.
Definitely a lot of fun.
You have a lot of beautiful stainless steel tanks here. And also I noticed some barrels, oak barrels.
That's correct.
And you do your white wines in the stainless steel?
Typically, 90% of the white wines stay in stainless steel. We want to retain the fruits, fresh fruity flavors. The oak barrels, we do some Chardonnay, ferment it in the barrels.
Okay.
And most of the reds will go into the barrels.
Now, do you produce mostly reds in this vineyard or mostly whites?
Mostly whites. My favorite is Gewürztraminer, which is hard for people to say, so they're a little afraid of it. It's a Alsatian German grape that is typically like a Riesling, but made in a dry style.
Dry or white?
Dry or white, exactly.
Yeah, which is always nice. So you also do a winter wine here?
The winter wine or the ice wine is it's a favorite of a lot of people.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that it has a lot of sugar. So we start the fermentation at about 38 bricks, which is quite a bit higher than the normal wines.
Lasts longer on the vine.
It lasts longer. So we're actually picking usually in the snow because we want the grapes to be actually frozen.
Are you getting a drier wine with the...
You're still getting a sweet wine, yeah.
Sweet,
we're finishing at 21 bricks, so we're finishing what we would normally start a normal wine at, 19 to 21, somewhere in there. And but the acid is so high that it doesn't taste as sweet as it really is.
A lot of work.
It is. It is. It is a lot more work than you really would think it would be. And every year it's a little bit different. You never know what's going to happen.
George, we have a wide variety of 18 bottles in front of us here. What do you want to try first?
Well, typically when we're doing a normal tasting, we'll go from dry to sweet. So let's start off with my favorite, and the driest wine is the Gewürztraminer.
Okay, and that is a German
Alsatian style wine, like a Riesling, but the flavors are a little bit different, but same style. You can pick up a lot of the aromas. Nice fruit. No, smile.
It is dry. Yeah. No, it is dry. It's nice. What are we looking for in terms of what I'm smelling here, in terms of the nose?
Well, each grape is going to have a slightly different flavor, slightly different aroma. Basically, what we talked about earlier with fermenting at a lower temperature, I want to retain a lot of that bouquet and fruit. And that's sort of what you're looking for. So you're just basically looking for something to come alive. And then each person's going to have a little bit different perception.
Yeah, this is very nice. What's the aftertaste I'm getting?
I think a little bit of apricot.
Okay. It's got a nice taste. Now you have a dessert wine, right?
Now this is our sweetest of the line. This is our ice wine. So typically we'll pick this between Thanksgiving and Christmas, depending on when we get the hard frost. We'll go out and the boys will hand pick this fruit. We can't machine harvest this fruit because of the way they come in.
Notice the difference in color.
Definitely
Wow.
a darker color.
Very strong bouquet.
And this is Vidal Blanc. We make a Vidal Blanc wine, and the difference is we leave these on the vine to freeze, and then we'll press. Pressing is typically a 24-hour cycle instead of a 2 to 3 hour cycle. So we have to press slowly, and we lose about a third of the liquid because of the frozen fruit.
This is delicious.
Thank you.
This is really good. This is very nice. It's sweet, but it's not disgusting.
Right. So the sugar, the residual sugar is very high, but again, the acid is also very high. So it's a good balance.
It'd be great with dessert.
This is you can't drink the whole bottle, obviously,
No,
but it definitely is a nice dessert wine.
Very nice. George, thanks very much for talking with us, and you have a beautiful setup over here.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.